Hello, welcome to today's preview show. I'm Alan Brown. I'll be hosting these sessions, and then today we have a very special guest, David Dahl, City Councilman. Welcome, David.
Thank you for having me on, Alan.
No problem. The mayor really wanted to be a guest today, but he's in Indianapolis picking up some grant money, which we'll speak a little bit later today. That's excellent. Love that. We love grant money. Okay, today during the show, we're going to be talking about the phosphorus removal at our city wastewater plant. It's going to be a good project that we're going to be tackling, and it's going to take care of not only phosphorus removal, but some other issues too. David, kind of tell us about your history about the city infrastructure, prior to being on the city council, and what's your background?
Well, my background is I moved to Washington in 1976 when I went to work for Midwestern Engineers. And one of my first jobs as an engineer was helping Ed Barnett with Washington sewer projects. And over the years, I've been involved in most of the sewer projects done in the city.
That's great. So you're obviously an expert on this subject then.
Probably more so than many.
Okay. Let's talk about what we're talking about, where it's at. Okay, it's the plant that's located out there on Clark Road next to Purdue, right behind the animal shelter. There's a yellow building.
That's correct.
Okay, and I think I talked to Scott about the history of that building a little bit. He kind of talked about it just being an overall wastewater building at first.
Yeah, let me kind of tell you a little bit of history of Washington. Washington has had sewers since the late 1800s. In fact, you go to the city council chambers, up on the west wall are two big maps. They're like 6-7 feet long, and those are sewer system drawings of Washington from 1897, I believe it is.
Wow.
The rest of the communities in the county, Elnora, Montgomery, got their sewers in the 60s, 70s, 1960s, 70s. So we've been in the sewer business for a long time. Initially, we just ran sewage directly to the White River. Then by the 1930s, mid-century, we had a treatment plant out there at Clark to remove what are called soluble BOD. Components in the wastewater that when it gets into the creek, it promotes the growth of bacteria that use up the oxygen and kill fish. So that was the first thing cities did. Then in the 70s and 80s, they learned that nitrogen and phosphorus in the water led to algae blooms. In fact, that's why Indiana banned phosphate detergents back in the 70s. So the first thing we had to do, based on what EPA was telling us, we had to get rid of ammonia from the water. And so that was the construction that was done in the 70s and 80s. At that time, there was a building that had dated from mid-century that we went put a second story on to make it a lab. Since that time, ADA has come along, and you aren't supposed to have labs on stairs. You have to have access to handicapped people. Yep. Now, after all the cities are taking care of nitrogen from the water, the EPA and IDEM are wanting us to get rid of phosphorus. Even though Indiana doesn't have phosphorus in their detergents, they still get phosphorus in the water. Everything you eat has phosphorus in it. And so we have to make improvements to remove the phosphorus from the wastewater. And we'll do that by feeding a chemical called alum. My grandmother used to use it to soak her feet. She would spread it on plants to kind of help the pH in the ground. But anyway, that alum will react with the phosphorus to form a precipitate or a solid that will settle out. And to do that, we have to feed almost 200 gallons of alum. So we have to store, I think it's two big 5,000-gallon tanks.
Wow.
And those tanks have to be heated so they don't freeze. So we have to build a building to house those. And since we're building the building to house those, we're also going to update our lab, which dated from the 80s. It was outdated, and put it on the ground floor where handicapped people can get to it.
Okay. I mean, that's a lot of history about the sewer. Some of that I didn't know. A lot of it I did, but I'm definitely glad that you're on this show today. So, the big question is how much is this going to cost? And how the heck are we going to pay for this?
The engineers tell us it's going to be about $2 million. And luckily, we got a grant from Okra for $700,000. In fact, I believe that's where the mayor is today.
That's awesome. The mayor's there picking it up.
So we still have about $1.3 million to fund, and we're having rate accountants come at our next meeting to kind of fill us in on how we're going to do that.
Okay, and I think there's some different ways about doing it, and I think most people out in the, watching or going to watch this later probably want to know, how much is my rate going to go up?
Well, we believe the rate accountants have done a study, and we have some outstanding bonds, old bonds dating from the 90s, that we can refinance. And in the process of refinancing that, there's a technical thing that when you buy a home, you end up having to budget for a monthly payment. When you sell bonds, you have to budget for that monthly payment. You also have to set aside enough money to cover 1 year's payment. That's called a reserve. Well, by refinancing, we can make a technical change which will allow us to buy an insurance policy to cover that reserve amount. And that'll free up about $1.3 million out of reserve that we can then use to apply for this project. End result is we shouldn't have to raise rates at all.
I think that's a great thing if we can accomplish that. I think most people definitely, when we talk about rate increases, start worrying about their budget. So if this one we can get completed and not worry about anybody's budget, and take care of it all within the house, I think that's going to be a great thing.
Yep.
And I think that the mayor is working hard to make sure that is accomplished. And I know he's working with some accountants and our lawyers and trying to make that work for us without a rate increase.
Yeah, he has a lot of irons in the fire, but that's one of the first ones he's dealing with.
He's really come into a really hotbed of stuff, hasn't he?
Yes.
It's like, welcome to being incoming mayor. Here's your big projects, and this was one of them. Right out of the gate, spending $2 million on a phosphorus removal, and then Highway 50 is looming out there in the future,
which will require replacement of sewers and water lines.
So we're going to be talking about this probably in the near future when we get closer to that project, but Highway 50 will be on one of this as a topic, and that one might be a longer one. We're going to try to make these all within 10 to 15 minutes. We don't want to take a lot of your time up, but we want to get the most important issues out in front of you in a different avenue. I talked to a lot of people last fall that just wanted different ways to be able to get information about city council. That's how this started. So I kind of approached the mayor, and the mayor said, yeah, sounds like a great idea. Let's record the city councils also, or make them live stream. We know a lot of people can't get to those meetings that would really like to know that information. If you can see it live or watch it later on WHSH Broadcasting YouTube channel, that makes it more available for everybody. I think it's going to be a great thing. I was glad that you could come today, because when we started talking about phosphorus, I was like, yeah, let's get David on here because he knows what he's talking about. I do not know all about the sewers. Trust me. Not that I even want to. So let's going to talk about, so starting Monday night, 6:30 p.m. is going to be the first live stream for the city council meeting. If you go to YouTube, if you're watching right now, you've already found us. But, if you're watching later, make sure that you hit that little subscribe button, and then that little bell will help you notify you when we have new videos or when we're live, so that you don't miss anything that's we're going to talk about. I think that this series is going to be very informative. I also believe that we're going to try to get some information out there, not only for city projects, but, we're already talking to some of the people at the county folks about different things that we might do for them to help spread the word for them too. And surrounding areas, it's not all going to be about city council. We're going to talk about other issues and other accomplishments that our community makes. I think that our community is a great community, and we do a lot of things that maybe aren't publicized enough. We're going to try to do that.
There's a lot going on. People will be happy to hear about it.
That's right. So, and make sure you also spread the word that we're doing this. Make sure people know where they can find us at, what time we're going to do it. But, if you can't make it at 10 a.m. every other Thursday, just make sure that you watch it later. It'll be available all the time, 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter what time you can get on the computer, we'll be there. I'd like to take a time to kind of thank, obviously David, because he was our special guest today, and he's definitely an expert at what we're talking about. But we're going to go over some thank yous, and then we'll go over the city council agenda that we'll have for Monday and the Board of Works. So you guys know what's on the agenda, and maybe you want to come in person to discuss some of the issues that we'll have Monday. Thank Washington Community Schools. They're the ones that are helping us put on this production. They are allowing us to use their equipment, and unfortunately today we couldn't use their studio, so we've kind of a makeshift studio here at my office. So I think this will do fine for today. But the studio at the broadcasting radio TV class is amazing. They put on a great production every Friday for the news. They have great content on that. So watch. Of course, you're not gonna be able to watch tomorrow since school's out today and tomorrow. But watch every Friday. It's starts at like 2:30, I believe, somewhere around there. And if you subscribe to this, it'll tell you when they're on. So, also want to thank Dwayne Shake and Angela Barnard. They're the teachers for the radio TV class. They are instrumental in helping us get the students involved with this. I think it's a great project for the students. They're going to get to come to city council meetings and listen to them. Also to JJ Brown for behind the scenes today, and Kendra Mason, she's behind the scenes also. So I thank them for helping us on that side. And again, David, I mean, I think that we, tried to get the information out there. I think we got a lot of information out there to them today. They're probably going to try to digest that, no pun intended.
What do they do if they have questions?
Well, if they have questions, go ahead and post those to the side there, and we will look at the chat afterwards. And if there are any questions, we will address those in the comments below the finished video. So you come back to YouTube, look at this video, look it down at the bottoms, and we'll address any questions that you have on this topic or anything. Also make suggestions for future shows. We want, again, like I said in our preview video a couple weeks ago, that we want this to be driven by you who would watch this. So we want to go by the topics that you want to hear us talk about. We're also going to talk about topics that maybe a lot of people don't want to hear about, but we're going to try to cover the major issues that the city council and maybe even the county has to address, so that you can get all the information and be informed when it comes time to come to the meetings and when the meetings are. We're going to try to get all that information out to you. Again, the next preview meeting will be February 20th at 10 a.m. Let's go to the agendas for the city council. And I'm going to do the city council, and since he's a Board of Public Works member also, I'll let him do that one. But basically maybe I'll give you the right one. So basically there's just a few things on the agenda for the city council. It looks like two things. We're going to talk about a resolution regarding wastewater and water preliminary reports. And that has pertained to the Business 50 project. It will just talk about the resolutions on getting those preliminary engineering started. Okay. The next one is an ordinance, which actually is part of the ordinance of what we're talking about tonight. Today. It's actually going to be talking about the refunding of those bonds that David had talked about and how that financing is going to work. If you really want to know the ins and outs, we're going to have the experts there talking about the bonds, how we're going to refinance that, and the insurance policy type thing. All those questions might be answered on Monday night. Okay, what's on the agenda for the
We have a lengthy Board of Works meeting. Follows the council meeting. We'll pay the bills. Then we're going to talk about closing Memorial Avenue for a Travis Burkhart Foundation run. Memorial Avenue out near the park. We'll talk about a request from Washington Catholic Schools to paint a cardinal sign on one of the intersections. Open bids for asphalt. Approve some salary changes in the electric department. Talk about an agreement with a company that does inspection of our electric poles. Talk about a three-way stop sign at Bittinger and Viola, and discussion of an agreement with the rate accountants and attorney on some work that's being done at Jamestown Square.
Okay. Oh, that's going to be a good project. We might have to make that a topic one day. They've actually been coming to us for several months, and I think that's come to fruition now from our last, a couple of council meetings ago, and they're excited to get started.
They're going to renovate that 30-year-old building.
That's going to make a great improvement out there for the residents, and they're not displacing any residents either, from what I've been told.
That's right.
They're going to be accommodations maybe for a day or two, from what they've been told, but not displacing them for long periods of time. So that's going to be a great project. So that may be a future topic to kind of go over that and talk about it, and maybe we'll just do a brief synopsis of what that project entails. David, do you have anything else for today?
Nothing else. Again, thank you.
I think we stayed under our 15 minutes, I believe, didn't we? I don't want to make these too long, but if we have a topic that we need to talk a lot longer about, we will.
We might bring department heads in. You might want to bring department heads in.
I think that'd be a great idea. Let them talk about their stuff, and yep. I've already thought about trying to get Superintendent Surdscatter up here to talk about what's going to happen in the springtime when we have all those potholes that we still have, and they're going to be working hard, I'm sure. But I thought he'd be a good one to start out with, to try to get talking about paving and stuff like that. People probably wouldn't know about that. So I guess until next time, I'm Alan Brown, and have a great day, Washington.